Module 4, Funding to Move Forward. Funding to improve job-related mobility does not come from a single source, but usually from a blend of local and federal, as well as public and private dollars. Hence, transportation funding can be a complex landscape of programs, but one that is well worth understanding. Federal legislators have long recognized the importance of transportation to successful employment outcomes, and have created specific funding programs to reflect this realization. Most of these programs are funded through the Federal Transit Administration of the U.S. Department of Transportation, or USDOT. In programs funded through other federal departments, such as workforce or educational programs, transportation is one of many allowable supportive services. We'll look first at federal DOT-funded programs, which were authorized in federal transportation legislation passed in 2005. New authorizing legislation is being worked on by Congress now. Although we expect that the existing funding streams will likely be replaced with other programs in the new legislation, it is still worthwhile to understand the current DOT programs that fund employment transportation projects, as some projects under these programs may still be funded through fiscal year 2015. Federal transportation law provides guaranteed spending levels for public transit and related activities in large, small urban, and rural areas. These funds are already at work, linking people with jobs and other employment-related destinations. Transportation law also authorizes spending for transportation for older adults, persons with disabilities, and low-wage earners. The DOT funding program that explicitly targets job seekers and low-income workers is the Job Access and Reverse Commute Grant Program, widely known as JARC. JARC supports the development of new or expanded job-related transportation services for low-income individuals. It also creates options for residents of any income level to travel against the traditional suburb-to-city commute. Some of the eligible activities that could be funded under JARC include creating late-night or weekend services for low-income workers, expanding fixed-route public transit routes, developing shuttle services operated by public transit or nonprofit agencies, developing employer-provided transportation such as shuttles, van pooling, or carpooling, and facilitating ride-sharing and carpooling activities. JARC projects must be based on the priorities identified in the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan, which was discussed in Module 3. WIBs themselves, whether they are part of a government infrastructure or incorporated as an independent not-for-profit, are eligible to be subrecipients for this funding. Can you see one or more possibilities for using JARC dollars to enhance job access connections in your community? The New Freedom Grant Program allocates funding to projects that provide transportation services and alternatives to people with disabilities, above and beyond those required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. These dollars can be used to help individuals access jobs and employment-related services. As with JARC, all projects must emanate from the priorities identified in the Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. Both JARC and New Freedom funds can be used to fund mobility management activities. These are activities that assist communities to coordinate and grow community transportation services. These services may include public transit, public and private ride-sharing options, walking, and biking. Mobility management also includes strategies that empower individuals to use the available network of services. Most one-stop career center activities that facilitate connections to employment-related transportation would be eligible for funding as a mobility management activity. Workforce-specific mobility management activities could include facilitating customer access to transportation, training workforce and human service agency staff on available transportation options, coordinating individualized travel training and trip planning activities, and similar efforts. One more note about DOT-funded projects. DOT programs all require some level of local match, which can be satisfied using local or state revenue streams, such as local taxes and fees, local private funding, in-kind match, Matching funds from a limited number of non-DOT federal programs, such as the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. Contract revenue funded through other federal non-DOT programs. We'll look at this in the WIA context in a moment. Now, we'll move away from DOT-funded programs to consider the 80-plus other federally funded programs that cover the cost of transportation as a supportive service. Many of the programs designated in the Workforce Investment Act are included in these 80-plus programs. WIA funds can be used to offset transportation costs for individuals, including providing tokens or passes for public transportation, vouchers, or mileage reimbursement. The policy around using WIA funds for this purpose is determined by the WIB and should be reflected in the local WIA plan. Similarly, most federal programs that strive to meet the employment, training, or social service requirements of targeted populations have a provision allowing for some type of transportation support for individuals. Although WIA dollars cannot be used directly as local match dollars for a federal transportation grant, they can be used to contract for transportation services from federally funded transportation providers, inasmuch as those services directly benefit individual WIA participants. For example, if a community shuttle served a central location where one-stop customers needed to access training or employment opportunities, a WIB could contract for seats on the shuttle as long as its contribution equaled the fully allocated costs for all its customers using the shuttle. In such projects, a clear cost allocation methodology must be implemented to ensure that each of the funders is supporting its fair share of project costs. The transit operator could then use the revenue generated by that contract as local match. Apart from government sources, what other possibilities for funding transportation services are there? Access to jobs is a major issue for business. And as such, there are countless examples of employers that include transportation benefits as part of a comprehensive employment package. Businesses have also shown themselves to be active funding partners for community or company transportation projects when the results are advantageous for their employees and the business alike. One federal tool that has made it more beneficial for businesses to invest in employee transportation has been the Commuter Tax Benefit Program, formerly known as the Qualified Transportation Fringe Benefit. It allows an employer to partially or fully subsidize an employee's commute via public transit or van pool up to a congressionally determined amount. For example, in 2011, the benefit was $230 a month, and in 2012, it is $125 a month. The employer deducts its contribution as an employee benefit. The value of the subsidy is non-taxable to the employee. Alternatively, the employer can allow employees to pay pre-tax for their commuting costs by public transit or van pool, up to the same congressionally determined limit, thus saving the employee and the employer on wage-based taxes. Additionally, other local funders, such as nonprofit organizations and foundations, whose mission it is to promote economic growth for individuals and communities, have invested in transportation solutions. For example, United Way of Tarrant County, Texas, was a key funding partner in the creation of HEB Transit, a transportation service that connects low-income workers with jobs, training, interviews, and supportive services. There are many specific actions WIBs can take to help leverage community dollars for employment-related transportation. First, it may be beneficial to review local WIA policy and amend it if necessary to allow for transportation as a supportive service. Allowing funds to be used to mitigate customer transportation barriers during training, for job interviews, and at the start of a new job has been shown to improve employment outcomes. And because there may be other funding streams that support the transportation needs of your workforce customers, WIBs can encourage partners to discuss a leveraged approach to funding customer transportation services. Second, WIBs can further explore how they might contribute towards local match requirements for transportation grants. One avenue to look at is in-kind contributions from a WIB or one-stop center that can be counted toward a local match. As an example, the value of one-stop staff time spent in helping an employment-related transportation project get off the ground can make up a portion of local match. Third, it might also benefit WIB customers to secure funds to support mobility management activities at job development centers. The Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation in Maryland did exactly that. They are using JARC and local funds for a mobility navigator who assists workforce customers in connecting to transportation. The navigator also does outreach to employers to understand their employees' transportation challenges and solicits support from businesses for solutions. A one-stop could also contract with a local governmental or transportation agency for mobility management services. The contract revenue could then be used as local match. One additional action for WIBs is to take the lead to secure funding for community transportation projects. By organizing discussions with their fellow stakeholders and leveraging their community relationships, they can expedite decisions on funding strategies. WIB members' experience in the business world will also help in writing strong funding proposals. Begin to explore potential funding strategies for improving job-related mobility in your community for WIA participants and other job seekers through the following exercises. Exercise 1. Find the entity in your community who is the designated recipient for federal transportation grants. Your contact at the local transportation planning organization will have this information. Discuss with them existing federal, state, and local grant opportunities for improving employment transportation options. Sometimes these opportunities can be found in housing, community development, and workforce development and other grant solicitations. Record your results on the form provided. Exercise 2. Create a list of local government agencies and local nonprofit organizations that might have resources, including dollars and in-kind match, that could be applied to an employment transportation project. Record your results on the form provided. Exercise 3. Research local foundations whose mission is to improve economic prosperity for individuals and/or communities. A good place to start is the Foundation Center, whose website is www.foundationcenter.org. Identify those that might be willing to assist with transportation-related funding. Record your results on the form provided. In the next module, we will explore steps WIBs can take on a local and regional level to support transportation strategies that help one-stop career centers and participants achieve their goals.